You're listening to Rule the Galaxy podcast. I'm Vanessa Marshall, Harrison Dulon, Star Wars Rebels. May the Force be with you always.
Hey, Star Wars fans and Rule the Galaxy fans. Sorry we're not going live this week, but just time and holidays and everything else. We're going to record one to share with the masses. This is episode 276 of the Rule the Galaxy podcast, and today you're getting a special crew. You're getting Joe, and you're getting Mr. Brent Dykeman. And before we go talk to Brent, remember, like, subscribe, follow, hit the like button, smash. You know what? Leave leave some reviews. You know what I think would be cool on either any podcast platform that you listen to or on YouTube, because we have a few dedicated YouTube commenters and I really appreciate you. But I think it would be great if you
Papa
want to
Pow.
put go ahead.
I
Papa
just said
Pow.
Papa Pow.
That's right. Cara Dune 69 and Papa Palp are there every day, it seems like. So thank you for that. But do that. Leave us some reviews. Leave us some comments. We've had some people say, I gave you a shot. I don't like it. I'm not listening anymore. Guess what? Thank you for the comment. And thanks for listening to his show. But it's chapter 276 of the Rule of the Galaxy podcast, zooming our way towards episode 300, which I think we should probably do a live show somewhere, Brent, and celebrate 300
Vegas.
with Vegas. Sounds good. Vegas sounds good. So, hey, that lovely voice you hear, Mr. Brent Dykeman. Brent, how are you?
I'm doing good. It's bright, bright and early. We are about 12 hours difference from when we normally record. So my body is not used to this time. So yeah, other than that, I'm all good.
No, I agree. It's a little different thing. I've done this a few times with Joey and maybe a few others where actually we sat and had coffee and talked about Star Wars while we were having coffee in the morning. But I'm not around a coffee shop this morning, and you are busy painting away as usual. Brent, you're painting and creating something outside of Star Wars. What is that?
Yeah, so there's a game that they're going to release a 4th edition for next week called Age of Sigmar. It's a fantasy-based thing, but a buddy of mine is trading me for terrain, so I have to make him some terrain. But he gave me a faction called the Ideneth Deepkin. They are based on fish, I guess. So they are elves that ride around on eels, and what I just held up in front of you was a shark. So are you kidding me? A boy that loves the water and loves all animal life. I can play around with toys that are based on sharks. They actually in the army have a turtle that's so this is the shark, which is bigger.
Love it.
And then they have a turtle which is like twice the size that has like 6 guys riding on it. So
it's kind of Finding Nemo meets Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's pretty accurate for this army.
Well, I'll show this to you. And if you're not watching on YouTube, you need to. But Lori and I went to the Dallas Zoo and Aquarium, and you can see in front of you, I'm holding a shark bracelet. And it's very cool. I'm now a bracelet guy. So for anyone who wants to know, if you want to give me a gift, I really like black bracelets. So that's my new thing. As I get older, I'm becoming younger. But
have you gone to Greece?
Greece?
Yeah. So do you? With your Italian heritage, I mean, I know they're kind of but they have like prayer beads. That reminded me of like the prayer beads. Have you ever seen them?
I have,
Okay.
but yeah. So yes, this bracelet is
That
very
bracelet
similar to that.
that reminded me of a prayer bead bracelet.
So for you, since you love the water and you love animals, what I would say is this: this bracelet, I have a shark. Lori has a sea turtle and a
Okay.
dolphin one, and you can get multiple other sea creatures. But these are absolutely awesome. We bought them at the aquarium, and you can they actually tag an animal and it's chipped to
Oh,
this
okay.
bracelet. And
Yeah.
so I can on my phone right now see where my shark is at all times.
Follow that animal.
Yeah, it's called FAHLO, follow, believe it or not.
Where were
Um,
you at when you got that?
the Dallas Aquarium
Dallas.
and Zoo. And no, it was just the aquarium, the Dallas Aquarium. That's right. The zoo was not there. But for you, this bracelet works out really well because not only do you get a nice piece of jewelry, but you get to follow those animals. Lori's following her sea turtle and her dolphin. Her sea turtles in the Caribbean, and her dolphin is in St. Pete area, just bouncing around St. Pete. So
Have
I
I
thought it'd go along with your creatures you're creating there.
Yeah, so have I told you about Walt Disney World and what they do as well as a way to conserve? So,
No.
if you go to Disney World, they always have those hidden like trips that you only know about if you like dive in and you're like
Hmm.
nerds about it, like the behind the scenes tour and stuff like that. Obviously for a fee because they're not going to do anything for free.
Right.
But one of them is you can scuba dive in the Epcot tank, and so
Oh,
the
you mentioned that.
yeah, like 5 6 years ago, I was able to scuba dive in the Epcot's uh, down in Florida. Yeah, down in the Florida Disney World. It's cool.
You know, Brent, this is one of the things, we are a Star Wars 99% of the time focused show, but what I like is we talk about things like
92% of the time.
okay, 92% of the time. But I like that you're talking about these creatures you're creating and painting. And if you are watching on YouTube, you can see not only my lovely jewelry, but Brent's creatures and an army that he's putting together and painting. So that's why we're here. We're here to entertain you in more than just Star Wars. But yeah, so you're still on summer break, obviously.
Oh
You
yeah.
enjoy that, get a little break. I'm sure you're keeping yourself busy with other things, but it does feel good to take that time and kind of clear the deck, clean the head out, and prepare for the next school year.
Yeah, I guess. If you talk to all teachers, what everyone is jealous of us, right? Um, they're jealous of us during the months of like June, July, and
Sure.
well, in Indiana, it's basically just June and July now. But then when you talk to them, they're like, "I couldn't do your job during the months of August through May."
Yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, I mean, then they're like, "Teachers, teachers, teachers," and then teachers complain, and they're like, so it's a whole, there's a whole. Anyways,
No, I get it.
I enjoy the summers. I enjoy the summers.
You should. You should. And while we're speaking, we actually got a text from Alfie, who's not with us today. Darth Mammon is a Sith Lord that I was asking about who uses the Force to embody himself in a mask. And that came up as we discussed the
Mhm.
mask in this episode. We'll get to that. But, even throughout the day, we get updates from the Book of Alfie on things we asked about throughout the week.
As you said, and I've heard other podcasts, so like Rebel Force Radio talks about it too. They have what they call themselves the Jedi Council.
Yes.
We have a pretty active chat group between the main guys, the four of us. Um, Usually it's some arguments, some of it, but it's usually a pretty good mix of good comments,
It
all
is.
about the wars and where we're at with it and what's going on, and yeah.
I think it's really good. I think our text chain is good and healthy because it allows us to flesh things out before and after the show.
Yeah.
It gives us a chance to, should we really discuss this? Is this really worthwhile? How do we really feel about something before we blatantly put it out into the airwaves? All those kind of things. So, yeah, I think it's fantastic. And we can talk about the mask here in a little bit because we're
Mask
going to talk about episode 6, which is teach and corrupt. But I wanted to throw some different things by you because that's what I like to do. You know me, Mr. Preparation.
Yeah.
No matter what we're doing, I want it to look somewhat like the bubble gum and shoestring is prepared.
Mm.
So Alfie sent it over, and then I read an article about it this morning. Lego has actually leaked out, or someone has leaked out Lego, the Skeleton Crew ship called the Onyx Cinder.
Okay.
What do we think about that? Did you get a chance to see that text?
Oh, is that what that picture was?
Yeah, that's the Onyx
I didn't
Cinder.
dive into the picture because it looked like a Lego, and I just kind of like laughed about it and went about my day. It's funny because I mean, D-Doc has made the comment about you don't see any of this Lego stuff from the Acolyte,
Right.
but we've and all of the stuff from the Acolyte came from actual like LFL, and not like through leaks. And it seems like all of the stuff from Skeleton Crew is coming out through leaks.
Yeah.
So they leaked the image of like the toy or like the commemorative medallion stuff. So yeah, so no, I didn't get to dive into it. It looked very blocky, if I remember correctly. Like, and I'm not saying that because it's Lego. I'm saying it looked very square and blocky, and that's about the only impression that I had of whatever ship was on that image.
Yeah, I'm looking at. I mean, it's getting to the point where a lot of ships are looking similar. In a lot of these things.
And I didn't see it until D-Doc said it. Unless you look like Gru's ship. God, that Jedi ship looks like the ship right off of Despicable Me. He's so right. Like, I can't unsee that now. But yeah, it's a lot of like it's as Alfie says, right? New stuff is hard. So a lot of and there's a part of me that understands that too. Like it is hard to do something different.
100%. I mean, I look. For us to even make our show have some kind of different feel or topic or whatever, it's very difficult. We're just talking. So to write it, to direct it, to produce it, yeah, it is. And I'm looking through here. It looks like they've got character names. If I can read, pulling this up really, really zooming in. Jod looks like that's what's that A-list actor again? That's going to be the head guy.
Look, all you people calling him an A-list actor. Like, I want people to realize that it's not. I'm not hating on Jude Law.
Yeah,
that's not saying that he's a bad actor. When you say A-list to me, I'm thinking they are a box office draw, and people are coming to the show no matter what it is. Like right now, Ryan Reynolds is an A-lister. People are going to go watch whatever Ryan Reynolds does.
I will.
Because he's Ryan Reynolds and because they've enjoyed the stuff that he's done. So Ryan Reynolds to me is an A-list actor.
Tom Hanks, Ryan Reynolds.
Tom Hanks would be someone like you can draw in because you like and respect. Everyone kind of goes through, and this is the other thing, they go through spurts, right? So what's A-list right now is not necessarily what's A-list. So could Jude Law have been an A-list actor in like the late 90s, early 2000s? Sure. But like The Holiday, it was a great movie, but was he the draw? I don't think he was the draw.
He wasn't the draw for the Marvel movie where he played the bad guy for Captain Marvel.
Right.
Yeah, he wasn't. Right. He wasn't the draw for that.
Again, this is not like I don't want people to go around, or I don't want it to come across that I am hating on Jude Law.
I don't think
he's an A-list actor.
No, right now he is not. But you never know. This might turn things around. Although he's been in what the new Harry Potter realm. He was in that for a while.
Yes, with Dumbledore. But again, people went to that because it's Harry Potter. They didn't go to it because Jude Law was in it.
No,
Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson would be an A-list actor.
At present time, yes, he would be. I mean, I think, you've got a handful right now, but like you said, it goes in spurts, it goes in rotations. Some people come back, right? Like they're A-listers for a while,
And then they
take.
go away, and then
Yep.
they hit something, and something hits big, and they come back, and the people are like, "See, I knew that they were good."
See, like George Clooney, right? For a spurt of like 5 years, 10 years,
The Oceans movies.
yeah, he was on top of his game with those. But really, I couldn't name much that George Clooney's in. Now I know he does coffee commercials. That's all. So, um,
Espresso.
yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, look, it doesn't really look outstanding as any different ship, and some of the characters are on there. I couldn't zoom in close enough to see their names, but obviously they're going to be Star Wars names like Wim and Lee and Jog and whatever, you know. So,
Jog. That's a
yeah,
good one.
thank you. So yeah, so that's that. Um, I'm a big Star Wars animation guy. I've enjoyed it for the most part. I did watch all of Resistance. It wasn't my favorite, but I did watch it all.
You did?
Yeah, yeah.
Let's do 30 minutes on the Resistance then.
Oh gosh, 30 minutes. I couldn't remember that much about the Resistance.
What did you remember about it?
I remember Kaz was a spaz, but
I
I
just don't like
liked
his voice.
I liked the little green guy with the star face that was
Yeah,
with him all the time.
I don't know what he was, but I don't know the name of it. I know Alfie would.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, look, there was some good animation in that, and it was fun. It was a different style of animation.
it was a
Uh,
different style.
but I did like they did have some good 3D kind of effect in it, some depth in it from time to time in the space battles, and when they took the ship off out of the water. That wow, look at that.
Yeah, see, that's when it lost me, man. Like, so
Well, let's face it, that show, I think we all agree,
it suffered.
it suffered from the change of directors in the sequel trilogy. When they changed and said we're going to do this, oh no, we're going to do this, oh no, we're going to go back to this. It messed up the plan there. I think that we're going to follow with that show.
Yeah, and so like season one, I really liked, and it was just when they got to the end of season one, um, they had already the not the Death Star, but whatever
Yeah,
the name, the Star Killer base had already been blown up,
right,
and
right.
I was hoping, because I feel like you could have done something just like you could have done with just like the Clone Wars, you could have done something to fill in the gaps and do more with the Resistance and do more. So it moved on from Star Killer Base already in the end of season one
Right.
into season two. So that's why I liked season one a lot better than season two. And then season two just felt like we got to get this over with.
Yeah, I mean, look, there were good characters on there. The mentor for
The old guy or
yeah, the old racer.
the old
Um,
racer.
Yeah, I liked him. I mean, look, I was talking to Mark Newbold about it the other day. It's hard to keep track of all the names in Star Wars now, right? You used
I
to
did.
keep track of 3 movies now, and then 6 movies. Now you got to keep track of all this stuff in the live action, the animation. Sometimes I just forget. So,
Um,
um,
I don't keep track of them. I have nicknames for everybody, and you guys laugh about me having nicknames.
slap face.
Like, I mean, so you got Slapface, and then like the ones that like stick out, I remember.
Sure.
But it takes a while to get you to stick out. Like I know it's now Cyril, but I'll still call him Slapface because he got slapped in his face by his mom. His mom got pissed at him.
So yeah, so I liked that character. I liked the female
The
racer.
other, yeah,
The daughter of
daughter.
the guy in charge. Yeah, I liked the guy played by oh gosh.
I don't know voice actors, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, no, he's okay. He's Petey from Remember the Titans. I liked him. He played one of the racers, and I liked the female villain that actually kind of turned, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
the one that the pirate that they picked up.
yeah. And let's face it, bringing on what was it, Captain Pyre, I think, who was the gold
Yes,
version of
I
Phasma.
really yes.
See, I mean, there was good in it. It just
Yeah,
didn't
like they
hit.
didn't explain who he was or why he was. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
and then like why he's gold versus silver. Like I felt like that
correct.
there is a hierarchy for those different colors, and then you have Captain Cardinal that shows up too, who's the red.
It's one of those things that I think you hit on it. If it would have been given a chance to breathe and create its own thing, if it would have gone 4 or 5 seasons, kind of like a Clone Wars or a Rebels.
There's a possibility.
Yeah, there's possibility, but when you rush it, it just
But
it
we all
broke that.
know that people weren't willing to, like, they just wanted to move on, and they still want to move on with all the decisions that they've been making. You can tell.
Yeah, I've actually got some of the characters. I bought some of the characters because they were at Ollie's,
Yeah.
and so I've actually got some of those packed away in here. I've got them for Frankie because I thought those will be fun characters for him to play with, and they're very animated looking. So
So the other what was I going to say? You said you got a bunch of the characters. Oh, so in the games that I play, um, X-Wing, which is the ship-based game, the one that T-Bob played
yeah,
and told you about, where you feel like you're flying the ships. They put out a Resistance faction, and they actually have Kaz as a pilot
wow,
that has like pilot skill, and they also have like the Mentor as one of the pilots, and they have they have those racer ships as like models that you can fly in the X-Wing game.
nice.
So back when it was out, they were capitalizing on it and trying to drum it up. But again, some fans
Look,
speak with their voices and with their wallets, right?
they're pocketbooks.
I mean, we can say what we want, but fans speak louder than what we speak.
So also, I thought, like you said about moving on. What's funny is, Filoni actually gave it a nod with Kaz's dad being in Ahsoka.
Yeah, and
So
I said this on some forum, like while I was watching it. He was still the executive producer of the animation studios. He
yep,
still was
he
controlling
signed
the
off on it.
animation.
Yep.
He still had a hand in it. And then like the Filoni apologists and the Filoni, like the Clone Wars like lovers, and I'm just using that, the ones
Sure.
that are like, did he really have a hand in it? Well, I mean, he's an executive producer of it. Like,
Yeah.
his name's on the show. If his name's on the show, you would think he would at least look at it a little bit differently. Now, did he have full creative power? No, but he still could influence it.
Right. Well, so the reason I brought that up about animation, and I'm glad we went down that little rabbit hole on Resistance, because you know what? Maybe you and I need to rewatch that, and
I'm
then
watching a little bit of it.
come back and talk about it for fun. But where's animation going? Like I said, with me being a fan of the animation, the Tales, I think the Tales will keep coming out, right? I think like once a year they'll come out with a Tales of the something. And then Star Wars Visions, I think once a year or so they'll probably come out with a batch of those. But I have not heard Alfie even mention, hey, here's the next thing coming. Here's the next thing coming down the pike.
What is it?
I don't know. That's what
Oh,
I'm saying. We know that, Skeleton Crew is around the corner. We know that Andor season 2 is around the corner. Outside of that, it looks like Ahsoka has gotten greenlit for a season 2, but we don't know that for sure. We don't know if Acolyte has been greenlit for a season 2. So if we don't know on all those things, it sure would be nice to have a nice animation show coming up soon that we could fill in the blanks with.
I know we're part of the engagement machine. The engagement. Oh God, what did JJ Redick say? I wanted to use it. That's
Yes.
the engagement management machine, the engagement producing machine that is the podcasting world and social media, and trying to generate interest. I come at it from my personal fan perspective and say, I'm glad that we don't know.
I don't mind that we don't know. I just hope there
Because
is something.
I'm not a person, right? Like, how much do we truly know about Skeleton Crew? Next to nothing, right? So
Kids and a guy in a ship.
how much did we know about the Acolyte? A lot more leaked out about the Acolyte. How much did you know about Ahsoka? A lot more leaked out about Ahsoka. A lot more information was given to us about Ahsoka. Like, how much did we know about Andor before it began, other than the fact that people were talking about it like Titanic? Why do I want to watch Andor? I already know what happens. They die, right? But like,
The
just the same reason why
Titanic
you.
of Star Wars.
But it was like the.
Yeah.
I don't know if you hear people talk about it. There was a lot of people that said that. Like, why would I want to watch something about that? But it came out to be like a decently well produced, well written, well documented show, and the general fan base really, really dug it. Um, so like just because we know something doesn't mean that it's gonna end up right. Like, and it gives people more time to bash, and it gives people more time to create their arguments or to create their positive spin for it. So I like the fact that I want to have general real reactions, and I'm actually happy that we don't know what's going to happen. Now, should they continue with the tales? So you had the tales of the Empire, you had the tales of the
Jedi
Tales
and
of the
Tales of the
Jedi.
Empire.
So
Yeah.
would you have Tales of the Republic? So you could do a Clone War, Tales of Bounty Hunters. What did I tell you? One of the first things is Tales of Takadana. You
Mhm.
can do like Maz's castle, like, and do some like they start off. They all have revolve around Maz's castle, and then they go and do whatever they want to do. I think that would be a fantastic animated show.
I think that's just it. I think a lot of Star Wars fans want to wet their whistle with something like that to where it's 10, 15 minutes, right? Get a little touch feel points of things and not have to get way too deep into the stories. Like I enjoy the Tales of the Jedi and the Tales of the Empire stories, and I didn't feel like, oh my gosh, I have to go invest an hour
Mhm.
into the story, right? Like I can go, oh, I got a feel of it. It was good action, or it was good drama, or whatever, and now I can back out of it, right?
Right.
It's not like you have to say, "Hey, I'm going to go watch 4 seasons of Rebels or 7 seasons of Clone Wars." I can watch 15 minutes and go, "Oh, that's pretty cool," and it told me just enough to make me go, "Oh, that ties to the story a little bit. That makes me
Right.
feel good about things." So I think there's all the way across from way back when High Republic era to way up now into the sequel era, there are plenty of things that they could do that too. They could do a Tales of the whatever in between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens, just to give you 15 minutes of depth, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they could actually do stuff around. You want to build you want to build up The Last Jedi to me? Do a Tales of the Last Jedi something. I don't care if it's Tales
Uh,
of First Order or if
you
it's
want you want a Tales of the Jedi Academy.
that would be fine. I don't
You would
yeah,
love the Tales of the Jedi Academy.
but
And
I just I like depth. Like who was it? I don't remember. It was Mark Newbold or Mark Mulcaster from Panther Tracks. And then I saw some other people writing about this is the thing that's become the trend. Oh gosh, even Rebel Force Radio was talking about it. The thing that's become the trend with Star Wars is we're going to give you a story, but we're going to keep a lot of it hidden back in that mystery box for you. And JJ, kind of started that with Force Awakens, but it seems like every story since then has done that. And it's like, if we're going to do those, okay, then throw a Tales of the in to help with that mystery box, and don't make it 5 years later where we're going, hey, we never got an answer on that.
well, I've also heard the same guy that we've talked about with animation, Filoni. He has said that not every story needs to be told. Like I've heard from a interview that he's done, is not every Star Wars story needs to be told. So you may say that there's a mystery, but they may leave the lightsaber in Maz's castle
Yeah, 100%. Right.
a complete leftover, like so you can create your own stories. So that was kind of like I mean, it may be a cop out way, and fans might say, "Oh, that was his way of like saying they don't want to do it." But like he has come out publicly and said, not every story in Star Wars needs to be told. So
All right. Well, that completionist guy, me, I'm going to have to just sit
I
back
know,
with
right?
my mystery boxes. Um, so,
And I also feel like it's not just the Star Wars world. I feel like there is movies in general have gone to that. Um, Somebody was talking. I was listening to some podcast, and they were talking. Oh no, it was not even a podcast. It was listening to the morning radio show, and they were talking about going back and watching movies from the '90s. And movies from the '90s They popped them in or whatever, and then the movie from the '90s they would show um, 5, maybe 15 minutes of credits and music and slow roll you into the
Hmm.
movie. If you go to a movie now, because of the attention span to try to get your attention, what
It's
they will often do in the movies is they'll hit you with the climax for about 3 to 4 minutes, and then they will flip back and then tell you the backstory.
yeah,
So, like, audiences are different. So, movie and production is different.
yeah,
Um,
true.
so I just think some of that could be just the way that the people are making it. And what it'll take a director in the movie world, or a director that everybody's like, oh shit, we like that style. We like that style of storytelling, and then everybody will start changing to that style of storytelling.
You know, it's so funny you bring up the uh we always I think you and I kind of always talk about this about society in general when we're talking about movie consumption, entertainment consumption. I One of my favorite things to do is at lunch, I'll go put on a travel video, right? I'll watch people travel places and see what they go visit, where
Yeah.
they see, because then it's like, do I want to go there? I don't know. Maybe I want to go there, right?
So are we
Um,
talking YouTube? Are
yeah,
we talking? Okay.
yeah, YouTube. Yeah. Sorry. And
No,
so
you're fine. I was just
uh,
I wasn't sure if you were getting like
no,
promotional
no,
DVDs that you throw in.
no. No, those are pirated DVDs. Remember,
No,
I'm a
that's just
pirated
Mando.
DVD.
That's just Mando season 3.
Um, but what I found was I was watching some videos of some people and they had gone to different places across Europe, and they were like, "Wow, this history stuff was so cool." But like 10 minutes in, I was completely lost because I can't concentrate more than 10 minutes.
Yep.
And so every 10 minutes I'd have to divert myself, look at something else, then go back and listen to the guide, right,
Mhm.
who was walking me through, because I can't focus that long. And the first person I thought of when she said it was you, because I was like, Brent talks about all the time how people need stuff in 10 to 15 minutes, but or less,
Short,
and
yeah, short
in and
bites.
out, right? And she even said, she goes, "Oh, TikTok is killing me." And I thought, wait a minute, we are doing this. We're building our brains to.
Yeah.
We're going to be 10-second Tom from 51st Dates with Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore. Hi, I'm Tom.
I mean, so but yeah, so you just got to do something. It is TikTok, right? TikTok is probably the biggest, but I don't think TikTok was the influencer. I think TikTok just capitalized on the fact
Oh,
that
it
it's a
did.
short burst, right? And that's the way that we just consume. And this is also going back to some of the backlash that this show is the Acolyte. I shouldn't say this show, but
Yeah.
like so Acolyte receives is because you're talking to somebody. So the press junket, if you've ever watched the movies and stuff like that, the press junkets that people go on,
Oh, yeah.
they sit in a room and different journalists come in and they get their 5 minutes with them, and then those journalists then take that recorded information and try to put together a TV spot or a marketing campaign. And they try to ask. Sometimes they ask cool questions. Like one of them was pretty cool when Hayden was on Ahsoka. They had a kid like build a Lego, like it was a little like a kid interviewer, and they built a Lego ship together. I don't know if you ever saw that one, but it was a
No.
pretty cool. It was a pretty cool like press junket interview type thing. But then like they ask people questions, and a lot of times they're going to take what they want out of that. I mean, it's the same thing in the political world. It's the same thing in everything. They'll take what they want to try to
Oh,
get
yeah.
the clickbait headline, and people don't know the full context of where things come from. Like, what was it? The director from um, that's possibly going to be directing the Ray movie had some questionable
Yes.
comments, and it was basically talking about what was going on in India at the time, and like I believe. Um, and people take it out of context because of the clickbait headline. Somebody went back and found a tweet. So, like, it's the society wants things here, now, and move on. Here, now, move on. Here, now, move
100%.
on. And so it's harder. So, another thing is like one of the other major criticisms is the fact that these shows are too short, at least what I've heard. But I don't, aside from a couple of them seem like they could have been full like out, like two of them together could have felt like an hour long episode.
Yeah.
I don't know if people are paying attention to the hour-long episodes because I'll be honest, I watched The House of the Dragon, but I got to rewatch it because my mind wanders because it is
I
slower.
yeah, so it's very
So
funny.
I didn't say this also. So
Okay.
before, like you asked us about Game of Thrones, before that Red Wedding that I told you about, which is in
Mhm.
season 3, I would have to watch episodes 3 times
Oh,
because it put me to sleep. Because I would also watch it at night because that's the only time that I could do it. But it was quiet, and then it was a lot of it was dialogue, and I would wake up and I'd be like, "What the hell did I miss?" So I had to go back and rewatch it. So I actually had to watch episodes up until season 3 times because I wasn't as invested in it and because of the time that I was watching it and just all of the other rigmarole with it.
we need to make we need to make an invention where the TV recognizes if your eyes are closing and
It just pauses the
it
show.
pauses the show when your eyes like stay closed more than like a few seconds.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, it does say you haven't. Are you still there? You do
Yeah,
get
but
that
that's
every.
after hours.
I know, right? Like after like a half hour of not doing anything. Are you still watching? Do you
Well,
still want to?
we'll hop into Acolyte, but before we do, real quick, I'm excited that Andor they've announced. Did I see Krennic is going to be back in
Yeah, I saw that
season 2,
announcement.
and I believe they've already said
Why wouldn't he be?
K2SO is going to be
Oh,
back
they're actually
in.
going to put K2SO in it.
That's what I had heard. So, which is great because he was one of the best characters of that show. I love K2SO.
Well, I mean, they had the droid in it. They just didn't
Yeah.
have K2 in it. You'll
Um,
hopefully you'll figure out how he becomes and how Cassian rewires him.
Yes, I would love that. And the way they're going with that sounds like it's going to be made much more for today's style because a year is 3 episodes, right? Boom, boom,
Yeah,
boom. And
arc.
those
It's
arcs.
gonna be arcs.
So, and then also, friend of the show, I saw some comments. Emily Swallow's been asked if she's going to be in the Mando movie. And I believe her comment was, I hope so. So
Right.
I think we all hope so. I think the armor is a very good character. I think we all think highly of Emily. We still love that she came on the show and, you know,
Emily
she
is just an amazing human being.
yes, I agree 100%. I've gone back and listened to that show a couple of times because you guys covered a lot of stuff, and I think she did a great show with us. And yeah, she's just a cool character. So I'm hoping she's in that. I think it'd be good for her to I love it for her career to be in the Mando movie. So. So those are just some of the side topics that I wanted to hit that before we talked Acolyte episode 6. But pretty cool stuff. We'll
Yeah.
see.
All right, let's hit into it.
Yeah.
Talk to me, Goose.
Yeah, you got it, Maverick. So I find myself liking this show, but then getting angry at this show all the time. And I don't know why. Because there is a lot of good in the show. I've talked about it on 2 or 3 recent episodes. There are quirks of it. There are some clunky dialogue, which let's face it, we're used to that in Star Wars.
Mhm.
There's some bad scenes, like set scenes.
Mm.
But then again, I still find myself going, I really like the Saul character.
Mm.
Even if he's going to flip, which he might end up being bad and doing some really bad crap that we're going to find out.
So what draws you to the Saul character?
I don't know. I feel like I can feel his passion on the screen. Like he's
Okay.
a Jedi and he's not supposed to be a passionate person, but you can see this stuff eating away at his insides,
Do you
right?
think it's because you're a father?
Could
And
be.
do you think it's because of the fact that and I'm not trying to get into like too deep of the psychology, but because of your father and that you've raised some kids and those kids have gone away from home and you're now kind of checking like you're still raising them,
Sure.
but you got to raise them from afar.
Yeah. I mean, it could definitely have something about that.
So therefore you have a little bit more of an identity towards him because he's kind of like I don't know.
No, look, here's the thing. I've talked to some people recently about this. I like his character. I like that he took the time, the effort, they put in the work to learn English to be able to play this
Oh, that's true.
role.
That's true.
Correct? And
Yeah.
then but I also feel like he's portraying that very well, and I do think he is a very big linchpin to where so many things he's gonna, if he comes back and tells May in this next episode, here's how the crap went down. We might have a totally different view of him. I might be like, well, that SOB, he could have done this or that, and he went this direction. I don't know, but I like what he's done so far. I personally, we've discussed before. I am the guy who likes I'm the Captain America guy, right? I'm the Luke
Right.
and the Ben guy, right? Like that's
Right.
that's what I'm drawn to. So even though Yord was a dork, I like that he was the rule follower, play by the book Jedi. Even though Jackie was also kind of the dork.
I
Ahsoka,
liked Jackie's
see,
dorkiness.
that's
I
so
did not like yours. I'm sorry. It was something that I didn't
no,
know. I
that's
felt
okay,
like
but
so there's a
but
lot of
like
conversation that I heard talking about thirst traps, and like that this one was
oh,
a thirst trap
okay,
like
yeah.
for this episode. And I feel like the only reason why Yord was in there was to be a thirst trap.
Okay. Well, but like Ahsoka, that youngling slash Padawan slash learner who's trying to follow the right path. I felt like Jackie was going in that direction as well, right?
Yeah.
Like so I liked those characters, but at the same time, I really like Chimere.
Oh yeah.
I think he's one of the best characters on this show. I think, believe it or not, my progression on him has been like, this Weasley dorky guy from the beginning to now like this guy he's bringing some chops to this, right? Like I like the enticement, I like the seduction, whether it's mental seduction or sexual seduction, whatever. I like what he's bringing to the stage on this. So has the show been perfect? We all agree. No, it has not been
No.
perfect.
Right.
But I now am drawn in enough to where I want to know what transpires in these last two episodes.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see where this goes. Um, and so that's where I am on it overall. And I think this episode I liked the dialogue. I liked the back and forth. Um, I liked okay, Basil while he's D-Doc's little go-to guy, Basil drives me nuts. That little hopping around, bouncing, sniffing, whatever. But I don't know if he quickly told Saul or if Saul knew the entire time, or when he was talking to her about Pip, if he figured out that that's when she was May, whatever. But Basil still drives me a little crazy. But overall, I liked the flip in it. I liked where it was going, and I'm really excited to see where it goes. The helmet thing, like I brought up in the text, is just going back to the one that Alfie just told us about. To in the Star Wars comics, where
Mm-hmm.
they have this helmet that's got Sith powers or whatever in it, and it seduces you once you put it on. I don't know, but I'll tell you what, I'm signed up. I'm invested, and I'm ready to see where the last two episodes go.
My statement hasn't changed. I'll start with what I normally say. I want to be entertained, right? But
Yeah.
my statement really hasn't changed. Are there issues with this show? Yes. Is it to the quality that the majority of Star Wars fans want it to be? No. Um, but if you take now, I like the overall plot
Mm-hmm.
story. Um, is the dialogue perfect? No, but no, the Star Wars dialogue is perfect. But I like the overall plot story. Um, do the girls switch? I heard somebody complaining about the girls switching motivations. Do they switch motivations quickly? Yes,
Mm-hmm.
way too fast for me. But they need to for an 8 episode show.
True.
Um, but and that's part of the story, is right. Like the story is what's the seduction, that whole side of things. Um, do I Chimere is cool. And I think here's another little thing is this show is called The Acolyte, and it's supposed to be a Sith-centric show. So he's gonna be your main character. Like he's gonna be the main protagonist, I guess, even though he is like dark.
Mm-hmm.
The Jedi, while they are the vehicle telling the story, are not your protagonist. So I don't know if you're supposed to like them. Um, I think you're supposed to like him because you're trying to see things. He's supposed to be sympathetic. He's supposed to be interesting and intriguing. Like, while we didn't really see him fully until episode 3 or 4, I think he is the main character of this show. Um, they just happen to have the sisters being the vehicle. I wouldn't say that they're the main characters. They are a vehicle to tell the story.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, you hit on the Clone Wars. Everyone thought this was a reunion to show Obi-Wan, Anakin, Padme where that story was going when it really ended up being
The fall.
Ahsoka's story.
Oh well, yeah, right. I mean, well, it still was until like later in, right? So like season 4, season 5, I think is when it became Ahsoka's story.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it became Ahsoka's story. Like I don't think this is their story. This is Chimere's story.
I agree with you. Watching it more and more, I'm sitting here going, they don't draw me into the story near as much as what Chimera does.
But they have to be there to show how Chimere tries to recruit. Right? So like how does Chimere get them to turn? How does Chimere seduce them? And now here's this is the question that I asked you in a text, just you, because I knew we were going to talk about it. And this is something that I've heard from our text chain, as well as like listening to reactions and talking to other friends. Like talking about society, we in society are ready to ship every male female interaction. Any sort of chemistry that is shown, any sort of conversation that is shown between males and females,
Yep.
people are ready to make a relationship out of them. If they feel that they're staying power with their characters, people are so quick to create relationships and they're so quick to see sexual interest. And so Leslie Headland came out in an interview before and talked about she liked the way that Obi-Wan talked about seductive and the seductive power of the dark side. Can you be seduced without having nothing to do with sex?
Sure. 100%. Seduction, we've coined it to be a sexual thing, but you can get seduced by gluttony. You can get seduced by material goods, material items. You can get seduced by
Power.
power. Exactly. I mean, all those things. You
What is
know,
it? Was it Robert Johnson? You know the story of Robert Johnson? Sold his
no.
soul to the devil. So Robert Johnson was like a blues singer that was nothing, and then all of a sudden was hot for like 2 or 3 years, and then disappeared. And so the story is that he sold his soul to the devil to get.
Okay.
So he was seduced with that popularity, that fame, or to do something to try to get there.
Well, yeah. So I would say, what is it? Power is the ultimate
Corrupter.
Yeah, it's the ultimate corruptor. And look, if you go back and look at the words when they talk about the dark side is completely a seduction. I mean,
It's also easy.
yes, and so I think yeah. Does because Chimere was nude in a scene and she's seen I mean she is seen, we're not, she's seen full frontal nudity as he walks out of the water.
Just because she doesn't mean that she wants the tallywhacker.
That's right. Although she was holding on to the large staff, she was not holding on to the large staff.
There's issues about the large staff as
well. But I mean, look, he was doing his best way to get in her head.
Yeah.
And to seduce her to either, and I don't know, I haven't figured out yet because he said everyone wants you, right? Like Soul wants her, the Jedi want, they want to know what's going on with her. He wants her, right? The mothers want to keep her. Mm-hmm. She's the powerful one. Like May wants to be
right
this person, but Osha is the one who actually probably has this huge amount of power that everyone can sense. So, and maybe that's why May was easier seduced by the mothers to say, I want to stay and become a coven. And she was easier seduced by Chimere because she's not as powerful. And,
No, so
and Osha is more powerful.
I feel the motivation is different, though. So my take on the motivation is different. My take is she is so committed to family.
Okay.
May is so locked in on her family that she's willing to do anything, right? So the way that Chimere seduced May was to say, we need to take revenge for the people that killed your sister. So this happens before we start talking to them, right? This happens before he goes and before she kills Carrie Ann Moss. Chimere's using that as her motivating factor. He's trying to motivate her with that. She's bought in hook, line, and sinker because she's pissed and she is stuck on family. Okay. Goes through, kills Carrie Ann Moss, goes and kills Torben because she's still killing Torben. Then you see her sister after killing Torben. Then she gets the walk. She starts to question. She starts to ask questions of Chimere while they're in the jungle, walking to go see Kalnaka. She starts questioning where it's at. And then about 2/3 of the way through, with the questions and the look that she's giving Chimere, she's realized, I don't want to be with you. I don't want to be with him because she doesn't know that Chimere is the stranger. I don't want to be with him. I want to be with my sister. And she even said the line was even, my sister changes everything. Right? So that's why she said she's going to turn herself into the Jedi because she was going to turn herself in to talk to her sister.
Yep.
And when it wasn't her sister that confronted her outside of Kalnaka's house, now people are like, oh, she went good, she went bad. No, she's always, I feel like it's because it's happening so fast. I think people are misinterpreting the motivations of that character. I think her motivations were always to be to her sister. The only time that it changed is once she confronted her sister and her sister then tried to arrest her. Then her motivation changed and goes back to wanting to be with Chimere.
Okay. Well, I think she saw her sister, even though she's not a Jedi anymore, her loyalty was still to the Jedi over her.
Correct.
I mean,
and she tried her damnedest, but she wasn't good enough at manipulating her to try to change that. She tried her damnedest, but it couldn't do it.
So, yeah, I had something right here. Go ahead.
No, I was just so that's my take on it. So yeah, it just happens too fast. It happens too fast. So people and so I have the beauty of having a little bit of time and going back, and also because I was trading. My goal is to trade these models for terrain, and he's watching it because he's mentioned a couple times about our podcast when I've talked to him in person. He's mentioned the Acolyte, and so I was thinking, hey, he wants a mossy planet. The guy. So I'm gonna make Kofar. I'm gonna try and make some stuff based on Kofar.
Oh, okay.
So I've gone back and rewatched Day and Night several times because I'm trying to. That's the only images of Kofar. So I've had to try to research the image and the surroundings to get those images out. Anyways.
So no, that's what I remember where I was going now. But no, that's good that you got the depth on it. I've usually watched each episode twice. So looking at it, one, he used to be a Jedi. He's come out and said that now.
Yeah.
Or whether it's a Padawan or a Jedi Knight or whatever. He's
lying, but he's lying because he knows that that's what's going to get her because she was.
Yes, and
but
then
he also knows a lot about her.
When she asked about it, he said a long time ago. A long time ago. So, is there something about him to where there's some type of preservation thing going on, like a vampire drinking blood, right? The Emperor using other, the Force and trying to keep himself,
is that
alive?
canon?
What's that?
The Empire using the Force or using
Well, Palpatine, I mean, like using the stuff he did in the stuff we're seeing now in the live action shows, and now in the sequels where he's been trying to keep himself immortal, right?
well, yeah, but
But,
like, go ahead.
well, but I'm just saying, I found it interesting. He said a long time ago,
Yeah.
like, because he doesn't look old. So, is there something about his species? Is there something about him? Is he a shapeshifter? Is he, what is going on that he's mentioning? Because, he could have just said, yeah, I used to be a Jedi. Okay. How long ago? Well, before you were, right? But it was like a long time ago. And I don't think they're doing that to play on the words from the scrolls, from from the movies or whatever. But so I want to know some depth on that. Is there something, some storyline that it was a long, long time ago and something's happened to keep him alive this long? Don't know. And then the stuff on his back, the back wounds, they obviously don't look like lightsaber wounds. They look more like whip wounds. And the only person that has a whip is
At this point, because there's other
correct.
whips. If you look at the images and cartoons, there's other people with whips.
Right. I mean, Lumaya had a whip back in the Marvel comics and
The slavers that were in
slavers.
that
Yep.
were taking care of whatever the Rancor, the baby Rancor,
But but
the Bad
also
Batch.
Vernestra, I think that's how you say her name. She was like something to tip the scale. It's like she was having a conversation with herself away from Mog when he asked who
That's his
else.
name.
Mog,
That's
Mog.
freaking
Yes, yeah. First of all, I didn't care for that character. He seemed a little weaselly and wimpy to be a Jedi, but
He's a red shirt.
yeah.
He was only there to be a vessel to have that conversation.
But it's like she knew something behind the scenes when she stopped and he was like, who else would have the power to do something like this? And she just stopped and said, something to tip the scale. What the heck? What does that mean? Where does that come from? She didn't think it was Saul. So does she have some inkling? And, is that scar from her or is it from, like you said, from a slaver that once had him? I don't know. But it just seemed like
So
there was some coincidental stuff there.
the long time ago comment doesn't read the same way to me as it did to you.
Okay.
And I'm going to give my background on that because when I watched um, Revenge of the Sith and the opera scene, and you have
Mhm.
Sheev talking to Anakin, and he says, "Have you ever heard of Darth Plagueis the Wise or whatever the hell?
Yes.
Have you ever? It's not a story the Jedi would tell." Okay, when I was watching that as the kid that I was, or I was under the impression that that was millions of years ago, and that
Okay.
Palpatine just unearthed it and he found it, right? That I didn't think that that was his direct descendant. So, or that, so in my mind, when I heard it, it wasn't as immediate as it turns out to be because of the Plagueis book and all of that other stuff. I was thinking that this was during like way back in the High Republic. Like we're talking like
Darth Bane time.
Darth
Yeah.
Bane time before I knew anything about Darth Bane time.
Sure.
But I thought about this idea and this guy, Sidious, no, Palpatine, not whatever. You know what I'm trying to say.
Sure.
He's the one who found it from way back when through some either holocron or whatever, what have you. So time to me can kind of like a long time ago is a relative term. So to me, it didn't hit the same as it's hit
Okay.
because I've heard other people say it. Like, and you're not the only one, but I was waiting to bring it up because I don't know. A long time ago could be 2 years ago. A long time ago because a lot of things have happened in that
It
person's
depends on
life.
your circumstances as well.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
So just because the statement was a long time ago doesn't immediately mean that it happened and that he's putting on this like force projection to make himself look younger, right?
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of I think there's a lot of wishful fan base thinking that's wanting that. But I don't know if that's what it was.
Gotcha. No, I get you. I thought also it was interesting. I'm going to scroll back here if I can find it. Alfie sent us.
Now, while you're scrolling, by the way,
Yes.
the whole whip thing, it probably is from her lightsaber. Like, I know I was putting it out there.
Yeah.
It's probably from something that happened, but I also don't know if it was like her getting angry. I think it could have been some accident that happened, right? It doesn't necessarily mean like because he's not going to be the most truthful. He's
No.
trying to seduce. He's trying to give you the intrigue. He's trying to make it look like it's harder, and he knows she's an outcast. He knows that she's been thrown away, so he's going to provide something that's going to tie her back in that makes him become, and I'm one of you, you're one of, we're the same. So
Right.
that whole the power of one, the power of two, the power of many, he's trying to make her feel like she's one of him
Sure.
and a sense of belonging and everything. If you listen to the military, if you listen to the fraternities, like when I was in the fraternity, you break somebody down to build them back up in the image that you want them to be. So that's what, in my mind, he's trying to do. And so the story he's telling her is something to make her feel like, oh, okay, I have scars too because of what happened.
So the last thing that I kind of wanted to hit on this, but no, that's you're exactly right. I mean, we all have our own perceptions of things, and if I've had a rough week at work, I might be like, "Ah, I need this
Been a
weekend."
long week.
So it's been a long week.
This week has taken forever. A long time ago
So
on Monday.
that's right. The the planet. This was the first planet that we've seen that said unknown planet, right? So it
Yeah,
was really cool that I don't remember if, me or Alfie we
you
found it.
found it.
That's right. I found it from somebody posting. Um, the planet was Baldimnik, ocean planet. Because at first you're like, is this Octu?
Okay,
Is this another side of Octu? Right when you see it. But
because all the
Baldimnik.
greens and
Yep.
like how like lush and green it looked.
Right, exactly. But Baldemnik, while had all these pristine beaches, giant rock cliffs, azure oceans. Is that how you say it? Azure.
Azure, yeah, it's
Um,
yeah.
but anyway, it was known to have rich deposits of cortosis, and they fell into the hands of Sith lords Tenebris and Darth Plagueis. Try to say those both together, and that begets Penebris. Darth Tenebris and Darth Plagueis, which of course falls right into our storyline of talking about the
Yeah, but I
stuff we talked about. So yeah,
is it
I
gonna
have no idea.
so I've heard anywhere range of speculations that Chimere is actually Darth Tenebus. I've heard him actually be Darth Plagueis. It's just their reimagining of bringing them into live action. Um, I've heard it is he's their master, or she might be the one that then recruits them. Um, I like I
No, it's okay. I just look
so
when
here's a question for you,
yeah.
and this goes back to Darth Bane. When Darth Bane dies, and it ends, and we've had Drew Karpyshyn on and ask him about it,
Hmm.
but when Darth Tyrannus' fingers start twitching the way that Bane's start twitching, everybody feels that the Force essence from Bane went into
Oh,
Tyrannus.
to Darth Zana.
Xana, sorry, not
Yeah,
Tyrannus.
yeah.
Darth Xana. Okay. At the same time, one of the last scenes was a separate Jedi Force
Hmm.
sensitive being
Who she
was
was training.
leaving
Correct.
was yeah, it was leaving in a ship with the Sith holocron,
Yes.
which would tell him how to become a Sith. So there's always two, but that doesn't mean that there's not a
That there's
divergence.
only two.
Right. Okay, so there's two. There's the master and there's the apprentice, and then the apprentice then rises up to kill the master.
Hmm.
But that's after the apprentice takes on an acolyte to try to build all that stuff up. But what I'm getting at is you have Tirana and you have whoever his name was going in opposite directions. Now you have two Sith that are
Correct.
going to have two apprentices that are going to have two acolytes. And then who's to say that another one doesn't split off because it is a large universe? So who's to
100%.
say that this is connected to Plagueis and Tenebris? However, for fandom, not fandom, but for like, that'd be cool as hell.
Yes. So
Like,
so
but I
that
don't know. I don't know if it has to be. Like that's kind of where I was. My whole rigmarole was like there's this world out there where it's possible that it has no connection whatsoever.
Yeah, so a couple kind of ending points thinking about all that and Chimera and all this. One, if it is related to it, cool. I mean, I like like you say you want to be entertained. I want to be connected. So if
Yeah,
something connects,
correct.
it makes me feel better to go. Oh, that's kind of cool. Whether they do it 100% the same way and use a Bith or a
Right,
Moon,
immune.
yeah, Moon to be these characters. Whatever. If
Fans are going to lose their ever loving mind
they will.
if it's not immune. If Plagueis is not immune, like I think they
Right.
can. I think they could handle a Tenebrous not being a Bith.
Yes.
They could not handle
It's
Plagueis not being the Plagueis from the novel.
it's going to be holy hell if that happens. But I like the connectivity. I like that some of the things that we've read about, brought into our own personal headcanon, um, are connecting some way, shape, or form. Look, I'm okay with all of all of it, and it's fun. It's good to find these little Easter eggs like this. To go further on the Easter eggs, Kylo Ren stuff keeps getting tied into Chimere, right? Like the music, or I feel like he gives off that vibe, right? There's a
Mhm.
vibe about him that is like so. If if his little offshoot isn't related to Tenebris, Plagueis, and Xana and Bane and all that, but maybe goes in the direction of starting the Ren section, which then connects to the sequels, I'm all for that as well.
Yeah,
I mean, I want I
I
want
feel that's
some.
more. I feel like
Yeah,
that is more valid, and I feel like that is more likely than the Plagueis connection
I think it'd be
for
great
a
if it's
couple
just an
reasons.
Easter
Like,
egg and it's just used, right? That's fine. Bring the fandom in and let them taste a little bit of that. But I'm okay. I'm okay with it. Yeah, going towards the Ren thing because Disney now has a whole line. Like we talked about, where were the Mandalore during this, right? Well, where
mhm,
were the Ren during this, right? So
right.
there are those crossing wavelengths, like you see in Marvel, right? That show up, disappear, show up, disappear. This could be that going towards a sequel as well.
That is where I feel like that's why I said for multiple reasons. I feel like this being the beginning of the Ren line
Hmm.
is a lot more logical than it is this being Plagueis because of all the things you just said, right? Like it's also Disney Star Wars. It's
Correct.
also it's trying to move away from things that came previous and trying to move towards the stories that they've already told. And the Clone Wars is an example of that, right? So the Clone Wars cartoon animated series made um, room, and it told the story in a different way, but it allowed people to grow to understand Anakin's fall. And it changes the way you go back and watch Revenge of the Sith. If you didn't watch and didn't see the Clone Wars and then go back and watch the Revenge of the Sith, you're not going to look at it the same way. People who've watched the Clone Wars from start to hilt to tilt is what I was trying to think about. Is they're going to look at it differently because it changes the way that you view things. I
Right.
see this as more of a Kylo Ren, or not just the Ren story. The mask is probably the biggest giveaway. The fact that it's a Disney thing, the
Correct.
fact that
Yep.
he's said, "You may call me a Sith, but I just want to be myself. I just want to practice my own way without you coming around and telling me that I can't." So I don't know if he's the start of the Ren, da 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 da, but I believe it's a connection to the Ren line, which I feel has a better connection. I don't think they want to get into the Plagueis story, but the fans want it, right? Like the fans of the prequels, the fans of the Darth Plagueis book are like, "Oh my god, it's going to be Plagueis," which it could, but I don't think it is going to.
Yeah, I'm leaning more towards the Ren thing with just some, hey, here's some Easter eggs to throw out to you to have some fun with.
Yeah,
So,
and just they were in the same area. They
yeah,
so the Wren started in the same area that the Tenebris, but they also didn't use the island, right? And um, I think they talked about it. I think when we had Claudia Gray on, she's like, I don't know the name of the blaster. I'll reach out to Pablo and like, hey, what's the name? Like, and so Pablo Hidalgo, or I think that's who it is. It was like the historian or the story group, and they're
yeah,
like, hey, tell me this planet. And like they know the story group's there. They edit it. They know what planet it is. They're holding that back for a reason.
Yeah. Nope. I got you. Well, Brent, see, this is fun. You and I could sit here and just chat for an hour and have a good time and relax.
Doesn't feel like an hour.
We've gone. Yeah,
I know.
hour and 10 minutes.
I see the counter. I see the counter, but it doesn't feel like an hour.
No, and even though I think you and I probably could go for another hour with all kinds of topics off this.
I could. The other one that I want to ask is like, can you? So you said, can we be seduced? The other one I have, and this is probably should have done it before, but this could take another extra half hour. So if you have time, I understand that you're also.
We'll
I have time.
Okay.
If you don't, I understand. Is there room in Star Wars for teen CW? Is there room? Now, I know that's not what this show was supposed to be. This show was pitched as different. I got that. But going forward, take all of this going, and I just want to change the conversation. I'm not making a comment about Acolyte. I'm making a comment about going forward.
I will
going forward.
Yes. I'll make it simple for you, and I'll give you a couple of thoughts why. One, I watched just recently. I watched the.
You're a Gilmore Girls guy.
I like Gilmore Girls, yeah. But I watched. Andrew McCarthy made a documentary called Brats, I believe, about the Brat Pack.
Hmm.
And in the Brat Pack, they talked about how before the 1980s, movies and entertainment were not made as much for the younger generation as the older generation. Mm-hmm. Like if you look all the way up until basically Star Wars, and even then we weren't sure. I don't know if George wanted it to be for kids, but at the same time, it was a very adult things going on, wars and killing and all this stuff. But it wasn't until they said, when you had the Brat Pack come out with all the John Hughes films and all the films about teenagers and all that, to where TV and movies switched and said, we can make an entire industry that sells
these
to
kids consume
18 to 25-year-olds.
Yep.
Right. And guess what? The CW even other shows have made that and stretched that from, you look at Nickelodeon and Disney to where they made it to where, hey, we've got that tweens to the early teens to that 18 to 25. We've got all those groups so we can sell to, and their parents will buy the products and take them to the movies and the shows and all that stuff. So is there room for it? 100%. If it's done correctly. Look, they make animated shows for Star Wars, and people my age will watch them. I'm 53, and I'll still watch an animated show. They have now the young.
Watch Looney Tunes. My dad still watches Looney Tunes.
I watch Scooby-Doo. I watch Scooby-Doo at least once a week. I love Scooby-Doo. I watch all versions of Scooby-Doo. But so I will say this: as long as the product is a decent product, and I'm not even saying a decent product for me. Is it a decent product for that tweens, for that 18-year-old, for that, whatever CW genre? If it fits for them, great. Because Star Wars shouldn't be to where we keep certain people out of it.
Right. There shouldn't be gatekeeping.
Right. It should be a huge tent. And we've talked about it. There's people we've met at these events we've gone to, like the ICCC, who are only into their one thing, and that's okay, because there's connection points between their one thing and our favorite thing, and we can cross those over.
Right, and the hope is that, just like the Ahsoka story, if your on-ramp was Ahsoka's TV show, your hope is that it would pique your interest to go back and watch more of the Ahsoka story in the animation.
Correct. So I look, and I've got a grandson, Frankie, who now pretty much every day or every other day watches a little bit of the Young Jedi
stuff.
Yeah, so he likes that, and he's got some of the characters from that. He's got some of the toys from that. So if he's jumping in from that, and then his dad can say, hey, Frankie, now do you want to watch Resistance? Hey, now do you want to watch Rebels? Because I do think there are stages you should go through that, right? You shouldn't. You probably shouldn't throw Clone Wars right in on,
Jump right into Revenge of the Sith.
Exactly. Hey, Mom, Dad, why is that guy's head missing?
Why are his legs burning?
Exactly.
It's because he had the high ground.
There
He
you
had the
go.
high ground.
So I'm 100% sold on it. I think Disney Plus, if they really want to capture, if they really want to do it, keep building these different genres, these different age kind of areas. And you know what, Brent? Will some of them not be a perfect fit for me? Probably.
Absolutely. And I feel like that's what's going on with this too. Like hindsight, I feel like this just isn't the fit for. But clearly, there are people that are liking it, right? And I
If
mean, it's polarizing.
if I was a 20-year-old male or female that was into sci-fi or into um, that CW feel, this show would be like, wow, there's Padawans, there's young Jedis over here, there's maybe some seduction going on. I'd be like, okay, I'm into this, right? It makes sense. Did I lose
Yeah,
you?
yeah. No. I was just thinking about like where would I be? Where am I at? And then
Hmm.
as you were talking, I was trying to think about character identification and like who we identify with, right? So that's part of the reason why you watch it is because you start to identify with the characters. You start to see yourself in those characters, which is why I brought up my whole thought process while you were talking was thinking about like Soul, and you have a connection for Saul, and I also hear people say that they don't feel like they connect to Saul, which is fine, right? Like everybody has a different person that they connect to. Not everybody's favorite character in the original trilogy is Luke, or some people connect with Vader. Some people connect with Han. Some people connect with Chewie. Some people connect with R2. Like some
Yeah.
people connect with C3PO. People connect with different individuals. And the other thing I was trying to think about is like I feel like I'm doing a lot of talking about what I believe May's motivations are and like how I read May. And is it because I have like how and why do I identify with May? So like why do I feel like I understand her motivation better than other people are understanding her motivation? Like what is it about my past, my history, my connection? Like why do I feel like I am connected towards that May character?
Yeah. That's a good question because I look at it and I say when I was a kid, I was 100% a Luke follower, and it wasn't because of blonde hair and everything else. It was because I was the wide-eyed kid that was a dreamer, and I
Yeah,
always was the kid
absolutely
who
see that.
wanted, I wanted the
That is
more,
that
right?
is that is Joe to a T.
Correct. So, but then as I've gotten older and I've watched the transition of Obi-Wan, I'm drawn to that character as well, but he's completely the
Mm.
opposite. He is, I am going to follow the rules. I am going to, but so
But is that because you're dad and that you wanted to try to keep rules and like is it because you feel more connected to him because
yeah,
he's more of a father figure?
he was,
Old
yeah,
Ben is more of a father figure, but like also because like he's trying to control this uncontrollable teenager and like just rolls his eyes at him and like you understand where he's coming from
it,
because
yeah, but it could be, and it could just both be of their moral compass, right? Like I feel like they both, even though they have to bend that moral compass from time to time to get in the right direction. I think that also again, if I ever buy a cowboy hat, I probably buy a white cowboy hat, and it's just because the Lone Ranger, it's the guy, that's just what I'm drawn to. And so, like you said, identifying things, yeah, I'm interested. I'm gonna have to think about the May thing with you because because I know when Rebels, what drew you to Rebels was the
family.
found family.
Yeah, I know,
Where-
right? Like, and, like I that's what I was thinking about. Is like the idea that there is a family connection, and I like that's why I kind of argue with it because I don't see her flipping flopping. I see her sole motivation was to be with her sister, and then the other part of it is Osha's doing everything in her power not to be with her, and all
Oh
that
yeah,
does is like flip her out even more. And that's why they
100%.
fought. That's why they were so opposites because she was so focused on the family. She was so focused on the covenant and the power of one, the power of many. Whereas Osha was ready to like, peace, I'm out. It's not me.
This
And
was
it could be, and honestly, it could be because my brother and I are so polar opposites as far as the way that like we live our lives and the way that
I
things have happened. And it may just be because I can see some of that relationship playing out. My relationship, I can see kind of like the same shit that I want to say to my brother.
See, this is good. You can say what you want, but this podcast, whether we're good at talking about Star Wars or anything, I feel like we hit on some really good topics that sometimes are just even better and more depth than just talking about Star Wars.
And
So
so yeah, and at the same time, that's why people talk about Star Wars. What else? We're 270 some episodes in. What else? Like, we're talking about the philosophy, and we're talking about the art. We talk about the art of the story. We talk about what
right.
like the motivations for us, right? Like, so why do we keep watching? And even the people that don't like it within our podcast are still watching it because there are things that are intriguing the shit out of them.
Yes.
There are things about this that are so like, damn, I want to see more. But there are also things like, what the fuck are they doing?
No, I agree. No, see, it didn't take us an extra half an hour, only an extra 15, 20 minutes. Brent, thank you. I get to go zoom back off to do work stuff.
Yeah, you do.
Thank you for doing this. Thanks for hopping on. Like I said, let's
Oh.
make sure that we get me, you, Brent, Alfie, and D-Doc for the last 2 episodes as you drop something.
I was gonna say, like, some of what I was doing was putting the
Nice.
weathering on the ticket machines that you can buy tickets for the subway.
Wow.
And then I also had, it's a different game, but I was painting some of the feathers on these ladies. So it's called Blood Bowl, and so the gilding and some of the leather.
Dude, I one, don't have the patience. 2, don't have the concentration. I'm happy that you have that stuff. So my mind's already bouncing around to things I'm going to be doing at 4:00 today. I don't even know. It's just
I've
all
also
over the
looked
place.
at, I need to shave and I'm getting fatter. So like that's also what's been going through my head.
Well, we'll work on those things. Batman, you do that. I'm Mandalorian today. You're Batman
Yeah.
today. Man, go have a great weekend. Thanks for doing
You
this.
too, man. Anytime that we can talk.
Yeah, we'll you and I'll try to sneak away and do more of these, the rest of the summer. So, thanks again for 276 episodes. Like, subscribe, follow, all those things you need to do. Like I said, for this one, do me a favor. Go to either your podcast platform of choice or go to YouTube. Put a comment or put a review. We'd love to see that. And if we stink, tell us we stink. If we're good, tell us we're good. But other than that, until next time, may the Force be with you.